Are you renting and think that it's impossible to buy a house right now in California? On today's episode, we unpack all of the major questions and concerns that buyers have and how you can address those and move forward with your next purchase. Hello, and welcome back to the Happy House Hacking Podcast, the podcast designed to help you navigate the path to happy home ownership. We are your hosts, Owen and Camille Schwagerly. We are realtors, investors, and happy house hackers. And on today's episode, we unpack the common objections that we hear renters have about purchasing a home. It's too expensive. I don't want to give up flexibility or my freedom, and I can't find anything that would ever be the right house. So by the end of this episode, you will have an action plan and answers to each of those commonly asked questions.
Yeah, we hear all the time, oh, it's too expensive to buy, and I'm just going to wait until prices drop, and I'm going to keep renting, and my rent is going to be more affordable than my mortgage. And while that might be true right now with interest rates, your rent might be cheaper than what a mortgage payment would be. In the long run, that's not helping you. And that's what really we need to make sure people understand.
Yeah. So today we're going to unpack the data and explore renting versus owning in the big picture. So, let's say I'm currently renting. Why should I buy now? Why not just wait? And reality is, it's not going to get cheaper to buy the longer you wait to purchase a home. And over the short run, renting definitely is cheaper and provides you some short-term flexibility. So if you're not sure where you're going to be in the next 2 to 3, 5 years, then renting makes sense. And so we're not telling everyone to just dive in and buy a house immediately after they graduate college or they're not sure what their career path is. No, we definitely want you to get stable in your career and path in life before committing to make that next investment.
Yeah, there is absolutely nothing wrong with renting. We've rented before. There's nothing wrong with renting. It's when it's for a significant number of years with no growth for your life. That's where we start to see people fall behind from the rest of the crowd. And we don't want someone to be renting for 10 years to miss out on opportunities in that decade where their friends have higher net worth and they've been able to be more secure and build more wealth because they were able to buy a home in that 10-year period.
Yeah. So we have some data, some statistics, and essentially nationwide, they've tracked statistics for a long time, renting versus owning. If you own a home for 5+ years, you're going to be in a better financial position than if you rented that same home for that 5-year period.
Even if your mortgage is slightly higher than what your rent payment would be.
Correct. And think about it. Once you get that locked in fixed rate mortgage, it's not going up, but there's rent inflation every single year. It is relentless. In fact, from 2010 to 2020, just a 10-year period in California, rents went up 35%. But if you had locked in your fixed rate mortgage in 2010, you would be paying the exact same amount every single month. And then you don't receive any benefits that time period. Let's say you're paying $2,500 a month for a year. That is $30,000 that you don't receive any benefit back from. That goes to the landlord. They pay their loan down. They benefit from the equity appreciation and tax write-offs, and you get nothing. So over a 5-year period of time, that's a $150,000 investment with no return.
And you could have used that money to pay your own principal down on your own house. And sure, there's a significant portion of your mortgage that goes to interest, but you still have principal pay down every single month. And that is what is building equity and your overall net worth and just stability. When you're renting, you might not know when your landlord is going to sell or ask you to leave. But if you own your home, you have control over your own living situation.
Okay. So big objection we hear, I can't afford it. It's just too expensive. Homes are priced too high. Interest rates are too high. I just feel more comfortable renting. I hear you. It is expensive. And we were there. We were renting for the first
2 years.
2 years of our marriage, and we really wanted to buy. We wanted to get out of that apartment so bad. It was a tiny little apartment. And we saved until we were ready to find the right property.
Well, and the right property wasn't even an ideal home of what people want today,
Mhm.
right? We ended up downsizing into a 490 square foot apartment that we owned at least, but it
Mhm.
wasn't in our top ideal location. It wasn't close to our work. It wasn't in turnkey condition. And it was a big sacrifice that we
Yeah.
had to make in order to help get us to that next stage. So I think that's a big concept we need to talk about is yes, it is true that your standard 3-bed, 2-bath home in California, especially here in San Luis Obispo, is going to be $1 million+. That's not an exaggeration. And that's really, really, really tough to afford if you're a first time home buyer. That is true, which is why we have to look at options beyond the standard, nice, comfortable home in order to get your foot in the door to be able to get that 3-bed, 2-bath in the next 5-10 years.
Yeah, exactly. And then another misconception when it comes to buying a home, a lot of people think you need 20% down. And that's just not true. That used to be the case. However, there are so many subsidized government backed loan programs where you can get in for less. We have clients getting in on 3% down payments, 3.5% down payments. Our first home was a 5% down payment. And so you don't need a massive 20% down payment to get into a property today.
Right. And, for our 5% down, that was only $28,000, which was a lot of money for us to scrape together, but it was significantly less than if we had to put, over 65,000 down.
100,000. Oh, no.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it might be doable sooner than you think. We have clients that were first time home buyers. We just helped them out and they only brought $12,000 to the closing table. So we found them a great property outside. They have to commute 30 to 40 minutes, but they're getting in with only $12,000 down.
Right. It's outside of their ideal location, but they knew that in order to get into home ownership, they needed to be realistic. We were able to help negotiate, get a closing cost credit from the seller, which helped lower down their overall cash they had to bring to close.
Mm-hmm.
But still, to get into home ownership for only
Yeah.
$12,000 out of pocket on California's Central Coast is incredible. And their plan is to live there for the next 3 to 5 years so they can save up more money and be able to buy their next house that's bigger for their needs. And they're excited about it because now they're actually saving money over that 5-year period by
Yeah.
buying a home instead of renting.
We were able to get $16,000 in total concessions from the seller. That was a huge amount of money we negotiated in savings for them, which helped them bring less down. We also had the ability to get a temporary rate buy down of 1%. So they got their interest rate lowered by a whole percentage point, which ended up saving them $250 a month, which made that monthly payment just so much more doable for them.
Yeah. So when we say there are ways to buy a home now if you really want to, we mean that. And that also means we need to be specific about our criteria and understand that for the short term, we will sacrifice comfort in order to be more profitable.
Yeah. You don't need perfection when it comes to your first home. You just need a plan to get your foot in the door. So that's really key. All right. Next objection. I don't like having responsibility. I heard this recently from a friend of ours we were talking to. They said they didn't want to fix anything in a home. They'd much prefer renting.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really like fixing stuff either. It's not fun, it's expensive. But at the end of the day, I rather have my own home fixed and spend money on my own home that's investing in quality repairs rather than having a repair done that might be, a little hodgepodge, mismatch, not really the most ideal because I have a cheap landlord who doesn't really care about the condition of the property
Hmm.
because I'm paying their mortgage.
Yeah. And it's true. Like, hey, if someone else is fixing it, that's awesome. I don't have to worry about it. They handle the repairs, maintenance, taxes, all those costs are on the landlord. That's great. However, there's a trade-off. In order to have that, you're giving up the ability to have stability. Because really, you don't know what the rent's going to do each year. You don't know if they're going to terminate your lease because they're selling the property. They have to move a family member into the property. There really isn't that long-term stability. So while it may feel like less affordable or it's cheaper for the short term, and it may feel like I don't have to repair and fix things, so there's less cost, you're giving up a huge amount of certainty when you are renting for a long period of time.
Yeah. And, you think about that phrase, pride of ownership, right? There is something that really fuels you as a homeowner when you are out there fixing your property and you want to make it the best possible, right? And that's what's so awesome is you have the opportunity to do the repairs that you want to do. If you need to, I don't know, there's a hole in your wall, you have to patch it, you can paint it, you can end up choosing your paint color. You don't have to stick with,
Mm-hmm.
the Swiss coffee basic tenant house color. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
I mean, you were showing properties just yesterday,
Yeah.
and one of them was a rental
Yeah.
versus homeowner, like occupied. What was the difference?
Oh, it was very sterile environment because it was a rental that they had just repainted and put in new floors, and it had that smell to it of the fresh paint, right? And my clients, who are a family looking for a family home, were like, yeah, this just doesn't feel comfortable. I don't feel at home here. And there was a home that we saw that was very lived in, yet they liked it so much more because it had that sense of ownership, that
Mm-hmm.
pride, right? It had the character and the charm. So I think when someone says that they don't want the responsibility of doing the work, I don't think they really understand the full picture of, yeah, being a homeowner is an extra level of work than being a renter. But at the same time, it's going to benefit you way longer than if you were a renter. And so therefore, you'd be excited about having the
Yeah.
opportunity to make the repairs.
Yeah. In fact, the Urban Institute had a study done in 2022, and it showed that homeowners are 2.5 times less likely to face housing instability, meaning you're less likely to lose your home by 2.5 times the amount versus renting. So, for the stability, security of your family, providing them that certainty, home ownership is a great option. And home ownership doesn't have to be a burden. It gives you the control. All right, let's move on to another objection. I'm not ready. I'm not ready to buy. I love being me. I have less costs. I can travel more, have fun, go out late, do my thing. I'm not ready to buy.
Well, there's definitely a time and a place for that. If you're new to an area and you are here on maybe a short 6 to 12 month work contract, or you are here visiting relatives who aren't settled down and established, then yeah, that might not be the place for you to settle down and buy. And that's totally fair. However, if you are established in an area where you have a great career, you maybe have some good friends who are keeping you in the area, a church community, or this is where you really plan to settle down if you don't have a family yet, then let's talk about what it looks like to have a game plan to buy within the next 1 to 3 years, because you will be ready once you know this is your town that you want to stay in. So I think when someone says they're not ready, either that's actually true because they're brand new to the area, or they just don't know what they don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So today, the median age of a first-time home buyer is 36 years old. Back in the 1980s, it was 26 years old. So that's like a whole decade shifted of like when people start to become homeowners.
Yeah, I think there's also the culture of people think when they buy a home, it's the home that they have to have forever. And, number of years ago, that's not the case. You have the starter home concept, which people don't always talk about anymore. But I'm sure when those 26-year-olds were buying homes in the 80s, it was a one bed, one bath or a two bed, one bath. And
Mm-hmm.
they kept it for a couple years and they sold it and they upsized. And that's how it worked. So in today's culture, yes, we would love that large home that we can stay in for a significant amount of time, but that's just not reality. We have to keep moving and moving and moving before we find that forever home. So it's not as permanent as it feels if you are going to buy a home. If you're on a 5-year work contract, well, then let's talk about what that looks like to buy. So that way you're saving money. And in 5 years, you'll have California appreciation that will
Mm-hmm.
benefit you in your move when you sell.
Exactly. So, the I'm not ready to buy is actually costing you money long term. If you look back at 2020, the median sales price for a home in San Luis Obispo County was $617,000. 5 years later, 2025, the median sales price is $910,000. 5 years, $300,000 in price appreciation. Wow. If you were waiting to buy, I'm going to wait till the market corrects. This whole COVID thing, I'm going to wait, just see what the prices come down. I'm going to wait till the rates come down. The longer you wait to get in the game, the more you're missing out. So we don't want you to wait because you're losing out on market appreciation and the equity creation of owning homes.
Yeah, it's wild. And I have a statistic I want to share too. So recently, data came out that single women are buying homes 2 times faster than single men. So here's the data. It says in 2024, 24% of homebuyers were single women and 11% were single men. And we're seeing too, even in some married couples, the wife is a lot more motivated to buy than the husband. And that's delaying their financial freedom because they're not on the same page about buying and just starting to build equity and moving up in a few years. So this is a significant statistic because it shows that women are more ready than men oftentimes to buy. And if that's the case, well, then, hey, let's talk about what that looks like as a couple for us to expand our financial freedom, right? So that's where, when I saw this statistic, I was amazed that it was so significant. It wasn't a small percentage difference, but women are dominating the marketplace when it comes
Yeah.
to buying. And that's incredible. And that shows that you can make it work even if you're single. Don't wait
Yeah.
around for getting married to someone. You can buy a house no problem as a single person, maybe even
Yeah.
easier because you don't have someone else that you're attached to with lower credit or maybe not as much income that, you'd have to figure out between. But that's something that too, when someone says, I'm not ready, sometimes they might mean, well, I'm not settled down. I don't have a spouse yet. Well, that's okay. If you know this is the area you're going to be in, buy a house for yourself and just live your life. There's no guarantee you're going to get married anyway.
Right. Yeah, man, I gotta say, what's going on here? Come on, we got to step up our game. And I mean, this really what it comes down to is extended adolescence. It's the I don't want to grow up. I don't want the responsibility of homeownership or settling down. It almost sounds like a commitment issue.
Yeah,
I don't want to
maybe.
commit to the house. I don't want to commit to the spouse. I don't want to move forward on these major things.
Yeah.
And realistically, this is costing you so much money and stability. The statistics, this just blows my mind. The median net worth of a homeowner in America nationwide versus a renter is staggering. The net worth of a renter is about $10,000, and the net worth of a homeowner is about $400,000. Now, why does net worth matter? It matters because net worth equals how much money you have if you had to liquidate everything that you own. And having that level of security, that security blanket, a nest egg of $400,000 provides you options for life, for freedom, for flexibility, to provide for your family, yourself, for a future, for retirement. So if you could have $400,000 of net worth versus $10,000 worth of net worth, which path would you choose?
Yeah. And we are here to inform. We are not pressuring whatsoever. This is something that we feel as young people is so important to have knowledge about in order to set yourself up for success, to be able to retire at an earlier age someday, that we want to make sure you have as much knowledge as possible. This is a really big deal when you buy a home, and we want to make sure that you have that information to be educated and empowered to do so.
Yeah. And we are passionate about this topic. So that's why we speak with such urgency. We know it's expensive. We know it's hard. It's challenging. And that's where most people will settle like, oh, it's too expensive. I can't do it. Well, if you argue for your limiting beliefs, you're going to win every time.
Yeah.
You can't limit your belief and say, it's not possible. I can't do it. Because if you do, you're right. Or if you open your mind and say, there is a way to do it, we're helping people do it every single month. Like it totally is possible. You just have to believe and then make a game plan.
Exactly. Exactly. And so that's where we want to leave you with there is a path forward, right? If you are wanting to explore home ownership options, whether you're married, you're single, or maybe you are the spouse of someone who isn't totally there yet, let's just talk and have a discussion, because oftentimes once we get more information, then we'll feel less unstable about a large purchase.
Yeah. So set some small goals for yourself. I just need to save 3 to 5% of the purchase price to get into a home. I need to expand my search criteria to maybe some places a little bit further and commute for a season of my life to get in. And then start working on your credit. Talk to an agent and a lender so you can really craft your plan and be ready to purchase when the next opportunity arises. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Please like and subscribe to our podcast, and we'll see you next time.